Hello again, and what a blessing it is, what a pleasure it is, what an honor it is to come your way again every Thursday evening. And what a great pleasure, what a great joy it is to be honored, of course, that you would give us your time and that you would spend time together with us to hear and to engage and to be involved in this conversation, this very important conversation we've been having, particularly to our target group of 15 to 45, what we call the younger and older millennials and the Gen Zs, the younger people who Africa is so blessed with at this time in the history of humanity to be the only continent most populated with the youngest of these demographics. And that's why for us, it's exciting and it's a joy, it's a pleasure, it's an honor. You have no idea that we would be welcomed by you into your space so we can engage together and we can, talk together, have this conversation together, particularly the conversation about our common humanity, the power, the potential, the awesome power, the awesome potential of our common humanity, and the fact that we have been blessed, all of us have been so blessed and so endowed by our Creator with this common denominator, if you like, in our lives. Each one of us possesses it. We all possess it, and that is the power to be game changers, change makers, difference makers, the power to determine outcomes and to make these outcomes happen, the power to look at life, look at society, look at our environments, look at our surroundings, look at our nations, look at our families, our organizations, and determine a certain level of, if you like, growth, a certain level of, competence, a certain level of expansion, and we can just look at it, determine, and just make it happen. Guess what? You possess it, I possess it, we possess it together. Elon Musk possesses it, Mark Zuckerberg possesses it, Bill Gates possesses it, Dangote possesses it. And I celebrate this great African so much because one man, one individual, just like you and I, possessing the same quality of brain material, brain matter, the same human being whom we share a common humanity with. And I'm talking about Dangote. He single-handedly has built the largest oil refinery, one of the largest in the world, but the largest definitely in Africa and in most parts of the world. And from the little I read, with some of the derivatives, some of the things it will be producing, it is the largest in the world. This is a black man, an African, and who has done all this. I just threw in this to say there's something about our common humanity that is not the preserve of just the Bill Gates and the Warren Buffetts, just in case you thought it was their preserve to impact the world around them. It is also the preserve of people of different color, of different geographical location, Africa for that matter, which means you and I are blessed, we're endowed, and guess what? We can take up this challenge and celebrate it, but also put it to work and say, let's do this. Let's change our circumstance, let's change our continent, let's change our nations, let's change Africa, let's change the rest of the world by reaching down inside of us to unearth this creator-giving, creator-blessed potential within us. And guess what? Each one of us are endowed. Each one of us are endowed with this blessing. We reference the simple line within the Constitution of this nation called the United States of America, which reads, and the Constitution says, we hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men, that means all women, this is no, this has no gender bias. And so all creation, all of us, all men, all women are created equal, and we're each endowed by our Creator. The Constitution directly says certain inalienable rights, but we say we are all endowed. We're all endowed with the profound power and the capability to determine things, to determine outcomes, and to make them happen. This is really at the heart and at the core of all of our conversations we've been having for the longest of time, and we will be having under different subjects, different topics. And today we are considering and discussing and conversating on the power of you, the power of you. The sum up of this topic just simply says that as much as you have the liberty and you have the right to hold anything outside of you responsible for your personal happiness, for your personal well-being, for your personal progress, your personal productivity, and all of that, as much as, yes, you are legitimately right about that, and you are right to say, I'm going to hold my government responsible for my happiness and for my joy and for my well-being. As much as all of that is true and has legitimacy in terms of making the case and making the argument, we also say, and today we are continuing that argument and that conversation to discuss and to engage this simple point, that before you hold anybody responsible for you, you must hold yourself responsible for you first. You are responsible for you first. I cannot say this enough, and I will say it again. You are responsible for you. There's no government, there's no power, there's no system, there's no entity out there that is first of all responsible for you and how far you can go, but you yourself first. That's what we mean when we say the power of you. In our first slide, as you can see, this is our third part, the power of you. The little quote there, and I like to very quickly read it. Quote, "If you cannot learn to fight like a lion, then you will never be king." End of quote. Let me repeat. If you cannot learn to fight like a lion, then you will never be king. Now, in the picture in the background beside the quote, you see this little kid, what looks like a little kid, a Caucasian looking, kid or young man or lad who is attempting to roar beside this lion that's roaring. From the picture, what we are depicting from the picture and what we want to, as it were, bring across as a first point, an important major point is, as young as this lad is, within this lad is the power, the potential, the capability of a grown lion, an alpha male lion who can roar. And that's who you are. That's who you are. That's who you are even as a kid. That's who you are as an 8-year-old, 9-year-old, 7-year-old, 5-year-old, 6-year-old. Now, for the moment, the roar may not look like a roar. It may sound like a little squeak, okay? But guess what? The potential to grow into these shoes, they lie right within you. They are in you. They are in you, right there within you. It means this has to be part of your belief system. It has to be part of your thinking. It has to be part of everything that makes you tick, everything that makes you live, everything that makes you get up in the morning and yawn and embrace a new day, no matter the challenges, no matter what you encounter in the day, engage in the day. You must tell yourself, and you must know this, that within you, just as this picture is depicting, that you may not sound like it yet. You may not sound like it yet. But guess what? The potential is there. You are a huge roaring lion. You are this, you have the raw. The raw is in you. The raw to stir up yourself into conquests where you can conquer is all in you. It is all in you. Now, let's jump right into the introduction. And it is this. I have realized that many people go through this life without purpose. Like a leaf floating down a stream, they let the currents of life take them wherever they want. It's not that such people don't have any dreams and ambitions in their lives. The problem is they don't take any firm action to go after these dreams. Instead of doing whatever it takes to achieve their dreams, they prefer placing blame on their circumstance, other people, or they put their destiny, or they put the blame on their destiny for not achieving what they want. And there are people like that who would put every blame, perform abysmally, perform poorly, lazy, just not get their butts off their seats to go do something, put their lives into action. They will not do it, but yet blame somebody. And there are people like that, always looking for government to blame, looking for a system to blame, looking for somebody to blame, looking for a family member to blame, looking for some past experience to blame, looking to put the blame somewhere. Now, that's what we're saying. Now, they find it easier to blame external factors rather than doing something to change their situation. If you want to live a great life and fulfill your wildest desires, you need to stop living a reactionary life and instead take your life by the horns and be ready to face whatever it throws at you, whatever life throws at you. So, from these 6 bullet points of this simple statements, what we're saying is that the power of you is seated on these important legs. Now, you know by now what the point of this topic is. We couched and crafted this topic, the power of you, to suggest to you and to say to you almost forcibly that you and only you for starters, are responsible for anything about your life that makes your life what it should be. Now, later down the line in these conversations, we'll be looking at certain case studies. One that comes to mind immediately is the life of the great Madiba Nelson Mandela. For those of you who know a little bit about Africa and you know the story of Africa and South Africa, Nelson Mandela, this great African leader who is celebrated for the values and the virtues of great leadership, transformational leadership, moral leadership, if you like, faith leadership, and great leadership that he brought to bear on South Africa. Now, the backdrop to Nelson Mandela, as you may very well know, is that Nelson Mandela, in his growing ages, was a part of the resistance against apartheid in South Africa, this wicked, heinous system of governance that oppressed the black people and the people, the rightful owners, really, of the land of South Africa. Of course, you know, other nationals from around the world had come to also live in South Africa and so build the South African nation. So you could say they could also lay some claim, you know, to the, you know, to the land. But of course, when you go in there, into any place, like the first discoverers of the land of America, meeting the Red Indians, or, you know, indigenous America, as we call them, or any other place where people go and there are already occupants and owners of the land, you cannot really go and claim outright ownership of the land. But long story short, Nelson Mandela was one of these stalwart, personalities who was involved in resisting, this wicked system of government called apartheid. And he was one of those in staunch resistance against this system to be dismantled. So there will be a level playing field for everybody, including the blacks, the indigenous blacks of South Africa. Long short, he was arrested and thrown into jail for 27 years. Now, the conditions of his jail and the kind of evil and wicked treatment that was given to this man was such that he should have died. Thankfully, he didn't die. He comes out, and guess what? Instead of being bitter and angry, he chooses, takes the power to determine his reaction to all of these atrocities that was done to him and against him. He decides to come preaching forgiveness and oneness between, the perpetrators of this wicked system and those against whom the system was perpetrated. He comes preaching this kind of, unity, not just some bland, blind, empty unity, but unity as in, coming together as one people, to live as one people. How do you live with your oppressor in unity? And yet, because Nelson Mandela understood this concept we're discussing today, the power of you, he knew he could reach down within himself. In spite of everything that had been done to him, he could reach within himself, first of all, to, as it were, energize and activate this power to resist the temptation of being negatively affected to the point he himself becomes toxic. Toxic. In other words, he's so bitter, he's so angry, just so disgruntled. He loses love for life and love to live and all of that, and decides, listen, I'm going to come at these people and I'm going to pay them back in the same coin, maybe more than what they, paid me. In other words, do them the same evil, eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth, as, some, religious belief systems would say. He could have chosen to do that, but he chose not to. Instead, he chose to walk the high road of forgiveness and letting things go. And this is what he did. Now, I have stayed a little long on this story of Nelson Mandela to say that this first slide of this 6 bullet points, realizing that he had a purpose bigger than hate. He had a life more worthy of living than hate. He had opportunities before him greater than hating somebody, even hating those who oppressed him. He found purpose and connected to purpose. Not only that, but understood that he had a choice between two. Either allowing the streams of all this injustice that was meted out against him, allowing it to blow his life like a leaf and let the currents or the currency of all of this negativity sort of literally sweep him away, like strong currents will sweep a leaf away. Instead of allowing all of these, he chose instead to preserve his dream, his purpose, and his one resolution in life to rise above all of this. How can any human being do this? We are not told whether he drew any strength from religion or whatever. We really are not told. But even if he had some anchoring on faith and on religion of any sort, he still had to put on himself the responsibility of taking the decision to be the one to determine the outcome of life and how he was going to deal with life and how he was going to deal with his haters and how he was going to deal with his oppressors and how he was going to deal with all of these. So, from this slide, laying it side by side with Nelson Mandela's example, what we say is, it seems to me, and we can suggest here, as we've said in our first two parts, The Power of You, that something about you, and I mean you listening and engaging in this conversation, something about you makes you bigger than you probably see yourself. And that is, your Creator, my Creator, our Creator has endowed us with this power, this potential, this power to rise above the vicissitudes, the adversities of life, no matter how terrifying, no matter how terrible, no matter how negatively impacting, no matter how toxic, no matter how destructive, no matter how they buried us. It seems to me that from the Madiba's example, and really from the many examples we would examine, it seems to me that this point is true, that this fact is indeed a reality, that within you is the power to make you the you were born to be and the you desire to be. What does it mean to take responsibility for your life? Because that's what we are engaging in the first slide. And we often hear to take 100% responsibility for our lives. What is the big deal about it? The big deal is that it moves you from victim to victor of your life. Now, that's a very important statement. The power of you argues that in your hands, in these hands, not in the hands of your government, not in the hands of even your parents, not in the hands of your siblings, not in the hands of your friends. In fact, as we've learned from Nelson Mandela's life, just sharing this story, your hands, he proved and showed that those who try to kill him and to destroy him and to literally destroy his life, 27 years of your life in jail is not a joke. It's not a joke. That's a huge part of your youth all gone. Your young life, your productive life, your energy life, energetic life, all of it gone. But this man, by his values, by his example, shows us that you can determine through how you react the quality of your life and what your life becomes and where your life goes or where it doesn't go. It's all in your hands. That power is in your hands. That's our conversation today in the part 3 of The Power of You. And as you can see, it starts with responsibility, understanding something about you taking this life, you knowing it's in your hands and taking it right in your hands. It is called taking responsibility for your life. And so this is what this point means. That from one stage of being the oppressed or feeling oppressed or complaining about being the oppressed and being oppressed, you can transition from there. You can move. You can literally move your life from there to the place where you put in your consciousness this new thinking that I am not a victim, I am victor. In other words, I am in control, I'm in charge here, and this is going to be the outcome of my life. Taking responsibility for your life is understanding that you are fully in charge of your own destiny through your own decisions. It means you acknowledge that no one has the power to determine how your life turns out. Not friends, not your parents, not even your spouse if you're married. That's an important statement I'm going to read again. The power of you, this conversation we're having, the power of you simply means You acknowledge that no one, my friends, whether you are 15, whether you are 12, whether you are 13, 14, whether you are 9, whether you are 40, 30, 35, 25, in between, whether you're 50, 60, 70, no one has the power to determine how your life turns out. Not even your government really has the power to determine how your life turns out. Not your friends, not your parents, not your haters, not even your spouse. In fact, I will dare add, not even your government. As I've told you before in the past, this, young lady, we normally would go on a walk with, team together, go and climb some hills, some hilly places. And this lady was talking about his home. And one day he just gets out of the home. And this is just not too long ago, recent time, just recently. And, times have been tough, really tough, and tough for everybody, tough for her. But then she goes to the backyard and looks at this vast land behind her house. And then immediately the light bulb turns on for her. And she's like, wow, what is this land doing here? I could cultivate that land. So she decides to put in the work, put in a little money here, a little there, a little here, a little there, a little. And guess what? She starts to grow all manner of vegetables, green peppers, big peppers, bell peppers, spinach, salad leaf, what we call, salad leaves, what have you. And all of a sudden, now she has so much to eat and to sell. She tells me that from just the backyard, she sells when the produce is up to be sold. After deducting all the expenses, she has more money than her entire salary. And I'm telling you, this lady is quite up the echelon, top echelon, works with a major telcos, company in Ghana, major lady. And so she earns quite handsomely. But she says her backyard is giving her more money than her salary. What is it here? It's called the power of you. It's called the power of your brains, you taking charge of your brains. Now, the government hasn't changed in Ghana, and the situations really hasn't changed in Ghana, but guess what? Her life has changed. Why? Because something about the power of you ignited in her the consciousness to say, my brain is a storehouse of ideas. My heart, my soul is a storehouse of creative thinking, imaginative thinking. Guess what? She rose up and took the power of her life in her hands. And from her backyard, she has far more money now. Now, to finish up the slides, all the power belongs to you. Now, that's a heavy statement, but it is true. Once you understand this, you stop relying on others to help you live the kind of life you want, or you also stop blaming them for things that don't work out as you hoped. Taking responsibility for your life also means living a life with purpose and intention. You are intentional, you are deliberate. It means having a clear idea of what you want out of life, having a plan on how to achieve it, and consciously making decisions that will take you closer to achieving your desires. It means intentionally doing the necessary thing, even if it might be difficult or painful at that time. Now, in our next session, at the Power of You 4, we are going to try to hammer in on some of these 7 bullet points here, because it is quite loaded. I can tell you, it is really loaded. This is at the heart of the power of you. But in closing, I like to say that from everything we've said so far, what we're saying is no matter the situation, you first look at you, look at yourself in the mirror and tell yourself, there's something I have been given by my Creator deep down inside of me, in my brains, in my mind, in my heart, in my soul, that can be activated to shift my circumstance and my situation. I'm going to come your way again next Thursday, and I want to thank you so much. You do not know how much I appreciate you opening yourself, opening your house, and allowing us in. I want to thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time, spending the time to hear and to listen and be part of this conversation. I hope and I really, really hope that this is a conversation you like to take around and engage your friends with. I'd like to encourage you to please like, share, subscribe, share with your contacts, share with friends, and invite friends all over. And so please like, share, subscribe. I can't say it enough. Thank you very much. Take care of yourself. Have a good evening.